Hey, welcome to the podcast, Eric.
How's it going?
Going well yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little down. My Celtics lost last night, but I'm all right.
Oh no. What's the series on right now?
2-2.
2-2. Okay. I mean, you can still pull it off. At
Yeah.
least two more games to be played.
Yep.
Three at the very most.
Yeah.
That's what's up. But I always like to start the podcast with this question. Who do you say you are?
I'm Eric Jones Jr., the underdog with the heroic heart.
Hmm. And where do you come from?
Michigan City, Indiana. I guess you would say it's a small urban town.
Gotcha. You grew up there for the most part, or have you been able to
I grew
move?
up there, and so I grew up as a kid until 18 in Michigan City, and then I went to college, and then as an adult, I've lived in Indianapolis.
Okay, gotcha. Is there much difference between the two?
Yeah, Indianapolis is a big city. It's Michigan City, everybody knows everybody. You don't really got to drive too far. Indianapolis, you got to get on the highway, different stuff like that. So it's a bigger city. It's a little more faster than Michigan City.
Gotcha. Awesome. It's funny. I just kind of reminiscing a little bit that we both met through Breve University. And I was wondering if, like, did you find out about Breve University by Eric Thomas being from Michigan? Or was it just online like a lot of people found out?
So Michigan City is in Indiana, so
Oh,
it's a
my,
big difference. But
that shows what I know about the Midwest.
yeah, no, people in Indiana don't know that Michigan City is in Indiana, so it's not just you.
Gotcha.
So basically Michigan City is at the top of Indiana. So you could go 15 minutes up the road and you're in Michigan. So
Mhm.
Michigan is right there. But no, I found Eric Thomas on Facebook. There was a video, the UOU, and he was, talking, and I'm like, man, this dude talking to me. And so I went and looked him up, and I joined Review, and then he so happened to be coming to Indianapolis like maybe 2 months after I joined. So it was cool. And this the funny thing. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get to meet ET because you get to meet him afterwards. And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, what I'm gonna say. Man, I got to him. He was like, hey, hi, I'm Eric Thomas. I'm like, hi, I'm Eric Jones. And that was it. But then when I saw CJ, I talked to CJ, and CJ, talked to me, gave me some advice. I actually talked to Toby. This was before Toby was who he is today. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's kind of how it started off, just by a Facebook video and me going and looking at what the service they provided, and I joined, and that's kind of how I got my start in entrepreneurship and just online community.
Got you. And that meeting, that interaction with ET is what really pumped you up to be a speaker.
No, it was before that. It was like got on a call or something. You know how they ask what you do, and I'm like, I kind of don't really know. And I just told my story, and they were like, "Oh, you should be a speaker." And I'm like, "Speaker? What the heck is a speaker? Like, what are you talking about?" And so I had started. Well, I don't think I started speaking. I got into like you know what to do and all that stuff. So I met ET, and well, his conference was here in August, and then by November I had my first speaking.
Oh wow. You moved quick.
Yeah, yeah. I just was doing what people told me, and I was emailing. I was emailing people. My first speaking gig actually was someone that knew my ex-wife. It was like somebody like her mentor.
Mhm.
So I emailed her. I didn't email her because of she knew my ex-wife or anything. I just emailing people in the community, and she was like, "It was weird that you messaged me. I didn't know who you were, but I was like, I'm gonna give him a shot." And when we got there, she's like, "Oh, she's like, oh, I know you. I know, or well, I know your girl at the time." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And it had nothing to do with them knowing each other. It was just the lady, gave me a shot. And after that, I started rolling kind of
Mhm.
with the speaking thing. I haven't done as much lately
Mhm.
due to before COVID. And then I got a divorce. So life kind of, punched me in the face. But now I'm back on it.
Got you. Yeah, I guess what was it like for you starting out once someone kind of gave you the idea? It's like, oh, okay, hey, you can be a speaker.
Um, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, because I didn't think my story was cool. I didn't think, me being growing up with a disability, all those different things, it was just normal. But
Mm,
when after the first speaking engagement, somebody was like, "You're inspiring. You really help, me look at life different." And so I remember I was going to schools. The schools was cool though. So my first time going to the school, I was nervous as heck. Like I didn't know what to do, and I came to a point where the kids weren't listening. They kind
mm,
of was like, okay, whatever, fine. And I was like, all right, let's go play basketball. They was like, all right, bet. And I was like, okay, I grabbed their attention, and I was like, I know once we get on this basketball court, I'm really gonna grab their attention.
mhm.
So I just improvised, and then I just was like yourself. And after that, all the kids started loving me. I remember I went to a community event, and this was the first time I like did horrible. This was my first because I judged the kids off of what side of town they were from. And when I tell you these kids got my butt, they said, "What? Why would you say that?" And I was like, "Oh, my bad." And after that, I was like, "Okay, never talk to kids like in that certain way or talk down on them or anything of that sort." So after that, I learned how to really go about speaking from that mistake. And after that, it was I wouldn't say it was easy. I'm still learning. I'm learning now you got to put it into like you got to teach like speaking is kind of teaching. So but at the beginning I was rolling. I had one bad hiccup, and after that I was going to detention centers. I was going all to the big schools here, because I actually got into the schools from somebody from BU. I still to this day have never met this man a day in my life. And he lives here in Indianapolis. Never met him. We just connected through BU. He was like, "Yeah, I know this program." He put me in the email, got me in there. I've been in the program speaking ever since. Never met him, never spoke at the same time, nothing. So
Gotcha.
it was basically just having brief university and just knowing people and be able to. That's how I got in the door. Just by that guy, like till still to this day, I speak at that program just from that one person. So it was a learning lesson definitely because everybody think they can talk or speak, but it's a difference when you trying to go up there and you have a goal to reach.
That's awesome. I, it's funny that, like you mentioned it, I've heard comedians say the same thing where they mention that when someone makes it so easy, they're just like, oh, they're just up there talking. Like I could do that. I could go up there, tell some jokes, and then you try it, and it's like, it's not the same thing. But also, do you want to shout out the person that kind of opened the door for you?
You froze.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you ask me a question, I didn't hear the last question.
Got you. My bad. The internet's kind of spotty on my end. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get it fixed. It's pretty hit and miss in this area, so I've got to go as the wind blows, so to speak.
Understand.
But I was saying it's amazing to hear that how you got into speaking and kind of what the first experience was like seeing like, oh, okay, this doesn't work, and then recognizing that like there's a different way to go about it and there's a process that you've got to go. You're actually teaching people, and then how you do that, you can do it properly or you can go about it the wrong way. And I was asking, do you want to shout out the person that helped you through BU that you hadn't been able to meet? Maybe he'll hear this, or I can reach out to him and see if we could make a connection. That way, you guys can actually meet in person.
His name is Destry. I don't know if Brandon is his last name or that was just his thing, but Destry Brandon. I see him on Facebook. I see he has a podcast, and he's still speaking and different stuff of that sort. But it was just connecting. And when I think is when you're in communities, because we've both been in communities in different communities, it's like when you're connected, people look out for you, and it's kind of like these people are strangers to you because you never like met them. You might talk to them online or on the phone, but you don't know. And from it is strangers are gonna help you before your family and friends will. Like they gonna help because they see something that they see what you see and they think like you. So they're gonna be like, oh, let me get this guy a shot rather than your fam. Something I ain't gonna say that because me being a educator throughout my education career the last 5 years, each time I've got hired at a school is because somebody I knew. But just it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's so true. That's like so true. Is who you know because these people I've been helped in so many different ways through community. So yeah, so if you are not in the community or you don't have a coach or something, get you one because it's very vital to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you make about community because it's just even getting back into a community I learned about through Breve University, which was the men's prayer line, and being able to go to the men's retreat and connect with brothers face to face, as well as being able to speak to them weekly over the phone. It's been big because even for me starting the podcast, even having the podcast name and getting the website and all that, it was through like putting the idea out there and kind of brainstorming, asking for some feedback. And I got that from the guys on the line and just being able to hear like, hey, like go ahead and check the domain name, make sure that you can secure it and that type of thing. And just starting something and going with it, not really knowing where exactly it's going to land, but doing my best to just keep working at that. So I 100% agree with you. Community is a huge role to play in this. What
Definitely.
what has the last few years been like for you, like going through the pandemic, because you started speaking beforehand, and then like how did you have to shift with all the things that kind of came up in life for you?
So before the pandemic, a few years before, I started working um, in special education. So I was like an assistant. But as I kept going, my responsibility became bigger. So it wasn't like I could always leave. Like the job before I started this, working in the school, I got fired because I was leaving so much because I was speaking. I was getting gigs, and it's like this is what I want to do. I ain't trying to answer these phones and work here with you people. So I wasn't really and so once I got into school, it was a little difficult to be like, hey, I'm gonna be, leaving. So I was speaking here and there, and then like I mentioned earlier, I got a divorce. So that happened like right before the pandemic. And then schools were kind of like shutting down. I really didn't know how to do the virtual thing, like, get virtual gigs. So I still was getting like emails like, can you do the virtual? And it was hard because I was working at a school and at the times that they needed, I couldn't do it. So it kind of had to do with my job. And then I didn't speak. Like I just like, how you do something and it's just like, I don't know if this is for me. And it was like, it had to do with getting a divorce, how people look at that, and, how what happened and just me overthinking. And then I had the podcast. I have a podcast as well, and that kept me rolling with the doing the videos and speaking like social media wise. So I once we got to sit at home and didn't get to go anywhere, I was doing videos. I was studying. I was getting back on that horse. So the pandemic for me was wonderful. I I like I didn't have to deal with people. I had time to myself. I got to work on me. I got to find me, and that's what helped me get back on the horse of wanting to speak again, and then having a podcast because the podcast was rolling. But then something happened to my co-host. He ended up passing away, got in an accident. So then even with that, I had to rebrand. So I've had to rebrand. So to answer your question, I think I went kind of on a rabbit trail, but to answer it, I had to rebrand myself a couple times and find out who I was to get like during the pandemic. And once I did that, it was like, all right, I know who I am. And even to this day, I still kind of rebranded who I was speaking wise because I was like, I don't know. I don't want to, it's hard because it's a million people out here. Oh, I'm a motivational speaker or I speak on this. And it's like, I don't ever want to be compared to nobody else. I don't care how great I am. I don't want them to be like, oh, he sounds like him. And I was like, no, I got to figure out me. So that's kind of like how the pandemic helped me to get back on that horse and even signing up for a couple speaking and
Got you. Hope the internet's still holding up. But
yeah.
I like that. And I did see you started a podcast. Did you start it? You said you did it pre-pandemic, not because of the pandemic.
No, it was pre-pandemic. So so what it was, I had one when I started speaking. Now I'm, motivation. I'm like, okay, no, this isn't me. I cuss a little bit. I'm funny. Like I'm like, let me be myself. So I named it. It's a Jones thing because it's me.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just me. And then I started interviewing people, and then I was like, I like this. But then I got a co-host. I got one main co-host, and then I had two other ones. And we were rolling. We had a meeting. This is the craziest thing. We had a meeting, a great meeting. What we want to do because we were changing the name because it was a Jones thing, but I've been here. Let's change it. Let's do this, do that. And the co-host died that Monday. We recorded that Thursday, and she passed away but she didn't pass away right away. But basically, she did. She got hit by a car and she was brain dead. It just basically, it just took a long time to see if she was gonna come back around. But after that, I was waiting. Like I was waiting for the other because the other girl was her best cousin. So this is all right after I started like I rebranded right before the pandemic. So then I was doing like people I knew, and then I started doing virtual interviews. And then once that happened, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? I liked having a co-host, but they didn't want to do it. And it wasn't that they gave up or anything. They just didn't have the same love, which I understood. I was like, let me start over. And I was like, I like interviewing people, and I named it Underdog Talk. And so that's kind of goes along with me. So it was a process. It was a process, like with the podcast, because for months I didn't do it, and I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself because I've been doing it for the last X amount of years, or even doing radio. I had a radio show, so it was like it was a pause, and then it was like, all right, let's get back on this horse. And I think sometimes before you go, people we go through a pause. We go through I'm stuck. We go through, oh, what am I supposed to do? Sometimes you just gotta sit back, relax, write down the good things, the bad things, and be like, okay, the good outweighs the bad. Let me figure out why this isn't working and make the adjustments so you can get back on that horse. And that's basically all I did was make the adjustments through the pandemic, through a co-host passing away, just kept making the adjustments. And that's kind of how I've been my whole life. Just make the adjustments.
That's dope, man. Couldn't have said it better myself. Uh, like is no kidding. I mean, there's always a reason, there's always an out presented to you, so to speak. But I'm glad you're able to rebrand and making it fit not only to yourself but to the guests that you're able to have on, and to find another way, whether it's through podcasting or through speaking. um, what's speaking like now for you? Are you back in schools? Are you still doing detention centers?
Um, no, with the detention center, they kind of almost like shut that down.
Hmm.
And so you have to it's a little hard because I have my son on weekends, and then he's about to start sports, so I kind of devoted the weekends to kind of helping him with sports, and I haven't really reached back out to the detention center. But with the schools, so this week I just found out I'm working. I'll start at a new school, a new it's an elementary school and then it's a high school tie, and it's a lot of opportunities. So I'm going to utilize being at that school for the speaking, and then reach back out to the people that I spoke with or spoke at their school before. So right now, I know I gotta hurry it up because you gotta, it's certain ways you gotta do with school and their budgets and all that stuff. But I'm coming up with a keynote and coming up kind of with a curriculum, and I think I'm gonna do an ebook too. Like I know the things that I need to do, so these things I'm kind of working on behind the scenes. So when that opportunity comes, I can be a paid speaker because I know what it's like to speak for free. And that's cool. You get the footage and all that, but I'm ready to get paid. So it's really being strategic and it's all about here.
Hey, sorry about that.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the process of getting back into the schools and knowing what it is that you want to happen. I guess to have either multiple streams of income or just putting together projects to help you kind of launch the next phase.
Yeah, definitely. Because just whatever you're doing, if it's podcasting, if it's speaking, if it's sports, whatever it is, you got to study. And when
Mhm.
you study people that's doing it, you see, oh, okay, they got conferences. Oh, they got an ebook. Oh, they got this. They got a course. They got that. I don't know. It's going to be God have to really directly talk to me about coaching, but I don't know about that. But just the speaking part of it, yeah, I know things that you got to have together because it's not so a difference between somebody that's going up there and doing a rah 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 motivation. That's cool. They don't call you back. But when you go up there and you're a speaker, they call you back. You got a program where it might be 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, and now you're getting results. Now kids, the school is seeing, oh, he came in and he spoke, and now our percentage of kids graduating went higher, or the kids getting bullied then went down. So it's about getting results. So you got to have something to get results. You can't just go in there and say, "Hey, I speak," and they're like, "Okay, that's cool. You can come in at the end of the year and speak to the kids." But when you have something that is tangible and adding value, you're gonna get brought back, and they're gonna tell other schools, and that's how you get the contracts, different stuff of that sort.
That makes sense. I, I guess going through what you've had to go through, have you been able to build back a team to help you in the background do those things that you want to develop?
Yeah, me, myself, and I. That's been my team.
Gotcha.
But no, I'm looking to see what speaking coach, because I want to devote it to speaking. I know that you get into certain stuff and you're like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. Da, da, da. It's like, no, I want to speak and I want to be very good at it. So this is like, I've talked to a couple of people here lately, and it's just about getting the money to do it because it's not cheap. I wish I would have done all this stuff when the prices was low. But it's all about the sacrifice. It's all about the discipline of not having maybe the X amount of dollars, but getting or saving up or understanding, okay, I need a budget or whatever the case. But for now, it's been me. It's been me with the podcast. I have a clothing line too. It's been me. Like I definitely ask people and get advice and, hey, does this look right or whatever. So I do have a couple of people that help, but I do all the work. So it's
Mm,
just been me.
gotcha. And is that one of your shirts you're wearing? Dope ass person.
Yeah, and it's my co-host Crystal that passed away. She came up with, she was like, I'm a dope ass person. One day me and her talking, and I was like, ooh, dap. And I made like 2 or 3 shirts. And I wanted to wear a shirt of my brand, and I couldn't. I ain't gonna lie, I woke up at like 7 something, and I looked over and I told my son, I said, "Hey, wake me up at 8:10 or make sure that I'm up at 8:10 so I can get it. And I couldn't find, so I just grabbed this shirt. And yeah, I
Gotcha.
mean, I'm a dope ass person, and everybody is a dope person, and so that's kind of the things that I come up with different sayings. Like I have one that I really love. It's a lovable asshole because a lot of people like, what? How can you be a lovable asshole? Because I think people I think people don't understand, like, you can a hole sometimes is just a person that says what everybody doesn't want to say, or they say what you need to hear and you take it the wrong way. But I told this lady I worked with yesterday, I was like, you either like me or you don't like me. It's no in between. It's no, oh, it's like you either, okay, here come Eric. What are you gonna do today? And so just different stuff like that that I come up with, and I know other people in the world think like that, and I think when you're creating stuff, you can't get caught up in your area. You can't
Mhm.
get caught up in your friends or family or whatever it is. You got to think, man. There's millions of people on the earth. I know there's some people that think like this. I know it is. I ain't the only person that think like this. So that's kind of that's how I've been taking speaking to.
Yeah.
Like I had to go back into my bag and be like, okay, when I was a kid, what would I wanted somebody to come in and talk about, or how would I wanted them? How do I want them to present? And it's like, okay, I kind of see how it is, and you gotta know your audience. That's kind of the thing, knowing your
Right.
audience. Everybody not gonna wear a lovable asshole shirt, or they're not this shirt. I got one that says, sometimes I cuss, but God still answers those prayers. I mean, everybody don't cuss when they pray. Some people do.
True. True.
No, that's just the gist of life. Everybody's different. If we all were the same, it'd be boring.
Yeah. I love how you're making your life yours and not trying so much to fit into something, and kind of to a point that you made earlier about it being easier to speak to strangers than it is your own family. One thing that I'm recognizing and learning is how to be unattached. And I guess it's easier to speak to a stranger because they don't have the history of you, like knowing you from your past, even as you may be trying to become someone else. And I think I heard someone say it, that instead of telling someone, you want to show them. It's like someone's more likely to believe your actions than your words. And like they would do in a movie, is if someone would rather be shown something than have to hear the narration about what happened, because it's like, I came here to watch a movie. I didn't come here to read a book or be read to.
Yeah, and that's how speaking is. You can't tell your story. You have to show your story.
Mm,
And I learned that is very so. I'm trying. I was trying to think of a quick short story to kind of like give you an example. So okay, I kind of live in the hood, right?
mhm,
And my neighbor next door is a crackhead, so he just be outside messing with people, and people be upset, and they be wanting to fight him. That's just me telling you the story. Now this so I'm walking to the gas station and I see him talking to himself, and he turned around, he's talking to somebody. And so as I go in the gas station, I hear the delivery man say, man, this is a crazy guy out there. He was messing with me while I was doing that. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I know who that is. And we all know who it is in this area. And people that's in the area understand, just don't pay him no attention. The difference with, kind of the story, I didn't pick a good one, but it's like
mhm.
I told you, oh, okay, I got a crazy guy next door to me. He messes with people. Now I told you exactly. I'm walking to the store. I see it. Now you can be like, oh, I didn't walk to the store and see the crazy person. You can relate
Mm,
when you show rather than
yeah,
just tell somebody.
that
And
makes sense.
one thing with being a speaker, you gotta be able to tell a story all the time. My,
Mm.
my kids hate it. Like, why do you always gotta turn something into a or like I just work on telling a story.
Mm.
I just work. And I think you said earlier something about comedians. I watch comedians.
Yeah.
I heard a speaker say, watch comedians because they got kind of the hardest job. You got to make people laugh like that. It's no online or any of that. And it's like, as you watch them, they help you tell a story. One
Mm.
day, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be a comedian, but I'm gonna do what's it called, an amateur night,
Yeah,
because I think
yeah,
I'm funny
open
enough
mic.
to. Yeah, I'm gonna do an amateur one. That's one of the like bucket. I got a couple bucket lists that just something for me personally that I want to do, but I definitely want to do an amateur night. I think I'm funny enough to at least do amateur night. Nothing long term.
Yeah, I think you should give it a shot. And one thing I like that you said was you being a creative, you can't get caught up in what it is that you're trying to create. You've got to just allow yourself to do what it is that you want to do. And I think that's a great point because too many times I've found myself wanting to make something so good or so perfect that I kind of lose sight of the process of doing that. Like you're talking about storytelling. I could tell you a story exactly like you were saying, where you just highlight this is what happened rather than show you this is what happened. And you mentioning that, it's like, huh, maybe that's something I can use now to practice, like telling myself stories, or like trying to find stories in my day to day to just liven up the day, so to speak, and not not make it too stiff. Just kind of give it some wiggle room and be like, okay, like you could kind of relax your shoulders a little bit. You'll be good.
Yeah,
That's what's
definitely.
up. So what's the rest of 2022 looking like for you, or what's this year been, what's the experience of 2022 been like for you?
Um, I'll go with the experience and then with the rest of the year. So with this year, it's been a challenge because I was a preschool teacher. I worked in special education. I switched over right at the summer, so I had my own class.
Mm.
And little 4 year olds, them jokers, they will test you. They will test you, and you have to be a parent too. I had to understand, like, I gotta go in dad mode. So this job that I've had has been very challenging because it was something new, and I have my own class, so I gotta come up with curriculum, and then I gotta realize these jokers don't know some stuff. Like it ain't like I gotta be. I'm like, okay, y'all know this, y'all know how to write, y'all know how to do this, y'all know how to count. No, they don't know it. So it was very challenging. But I was a part of my first fashion show, which I had a experience with that because the clothes that I ordered for some reason didn't get to me. Like it was just because I have an online store, so I didn't physically make anything. So that was a challenge.
Mhm.
Let's see. I I went on a date with a person that I really wanted to go on a date. I don't know if she'll listen to this. I'm gonna maybe send it to her and she'll know who I'm talking about. But yeah, it's a person that like I kind of like been. I don't know. It's some you ever everybody's met that person. It's just something about them. You don't know them yet. It's like they're attractive to you, but you don't know. It's just something about them that kind of like I want to get to know this person. It's like that.
Mm.
So what else was happening this year? My son kind of he kind of was like, all right, I'm ready for you to kind of help me with basketball too. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? Because I'm like, I know you love me as your dad, but you gonna hate me as your trainer. So, so just being able to work with him and playing basketball, like actually going to the park and we playing 2-on-2 versus other people.
Mm.
Like that's probably the dopest thing. I think that was been the dopest thing to me, just because I didn't have that. Like nobody took me to the park. I went by myself. So just to go to the park, and now he's at the age where he's not there to play with grown people, but kids,
Yeah.
he gonna play. Yeah, so just that part. Now I'll start a new job at the I started a new job next month. So for this school year coming up, I'll be at a new place.
Yeah.
I'll be a kindergarten teacher, so it's a little better, and it's more structured. It's a lot better at the place that I'm going, and the reason I went because it pays more. But just that challenge, and then getting back into speaking and keeping the podcast rolling. I think for the podcast, I'm gonna get back on video. Because I haven't got a chance, like with my work schedule, haven't got a chance to really get my laptop fixed. So I'm just gonna do streaming
Mm.
and get video. So my focus is speaking, being a better dad. I got a couple of personal goals that I want to knock off, but really just get back on that horse of speaking because it's I'm sure it's the same thing with you. You've seen people when you started off in the communities, and you like, okay, we kind of at the same thing, and now they way up here, and you still kind of like you climbing, but your climb is a little slower. And you like,
Yeah.
okay, they're making that bag. It ain't even about the bag, but it's just like because you understand when you get to a certain bag, it makes you a certain person. So it's like, man, I gotta really get on it because I've seen people from my first BU meeting, and I've seen a couple people that I still remember, and they doing their thing, and it's like, okay, I gotta get there. Like my pastor says, if your neighbor's getting blessed, you're gonna get blessed. And just knowing that these people are, just keep going. So that's kind of that's it. I got 6 months left. I told my best friend, I said, bro, it's go time. Like we gotta knock out some of these bad habits. We gotta focus on what we want to do because I watch podcasts and listen to stuff where people are talking about making 50,000 in a day, 50,000 in a month. You know, I work at a school,
Mhm.
about that in a year. So it's like, I don't want that. Like nothing against anybody that works a 9 to 5 or anything. That's just not for me. That's just how I've always thought. So it's really to get to that point where I can say, I'm done with working. Like I'm never gonna be done with schools because that's where I'm gonna be
Yeah.
working at. But just being a teacher, that's the goal. I don't know if it'll necessarily happen this year, but who knows? Because I wasn't even expecting this new job. So who
Mm.
knows what God got in store? But I'm just gonna keep being consistent on what been doing, and knock out some of these bad habits and add them with some good habits.
Yeah. I I like what you said about just being consistent because I think that's been a big key. And also um just also learning to not look to the left and to the right because everyone's kind of moving at their own pace. But I think it's good to just keep doing what you're doing because it's easy to get distracted watching what someone else is doing. And to your point, I think it makes sense because I think sometimes we can get lost in what the goal is and not being able to appreciate what's in front of us. Or to quote Brian Keefe, I was listening on the line yesterday, and there he was encouraging guys to pay attention to what's in your hands and not look so much to what someone else has in their hands. But I like I like that summary, like hearing about you getting a chance to go out and play with your son, and also teaching the kindergarten kids and realizing like, oh, they don't know how to do this. So maybe I've got to change the way I'm going to approach them or how I might be teaching them. So that's dope, man. That's really cool.
Appreciate it.
Um, how can people get in touch with you or just find what you're doing and be able to even book you?
Um, on Instagram, Eric Jones Jr. speaks.
And that's
Eric
Eric with a
Jones.
C,
Yeah,
not a K.
Eric with a C. I'm not gonna say who spelled my name with a K, even though like on the message it says my name because I I definitely understand because we're having a podcast. Yeah, people's names are yeah. So with my podcast, you can it's Underdog Talk and it's spelled UNDERDAWG Talk on Instagram and on Facebook. Eric Jones Jr. on LinkedIn and Eric Jones Jr. on Facebook. Um, I would say uh, go to Instagram first so you can see what I look like, and then you'll be able to pick because Eric Jones Jr. is a very similar name in the world. So I don't want you to pick the wrong Eric Jones Jr. because he might not be like me.
Good point. And one more question I have for you is, are you still who you said you were?
All right, Repeat it.
Are you still who you said you were from the question I
Yeah,
asked you at the start of the podcast?
yeah, I'm still Eric Jones Jr., the underdog with the royal card.
That's what's up. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're very welcome.